Hello all and welcome back to the FRS Formula One Team Series. We have just finished up with a race in China, which could have turned into a little bit better of a result, but on a dampening track, we made a bit of a mistake into the pit entry that cost us a wing and some track position. Still able to bring home just 1 point, although we were on track to finish P8 that time around, so the 4 points would have been nice to have. We are headed now this time to the Netherlands and the circuit of Zandvoort. Decent overtaking opportunity around here. A track that is really going to play into the fact that we've kind of focused on aerodynamics at the start. Checking out the weather, it is going to be cloudy, but luckily dry coming through. There is a power unit upgrade coming from Mercedes, but we are about to be headed in the next couple of weeks to both Spain and Monaco, which are both notoriously difficult tracks to overtake on. And we are in an area where taking a gearbox penalty is almost going to be certain. So instead of taking that penalty, we are going to go ahead and take the penalty after qualifying here at Zandvoort. We'll start from the back of the grid, and what we'll do is we'll also take a whole new power unit set. I'm just slopping on some of the more worn components for the practice sessions here before we get into qualifying and race, but then we will get that new gearbox in when we get ready to start the race. But in just a moment, we'll get ready to head out and check out qualifying. We're just keeping an eye on what the gearbox and everything is doing. So we should be able to utilize the downforce that we have built in to try and make up a bit of ground. So qualifying, we're just kind of getting a couple laps in to get a sighter and see how we do around the track, just in terms of getting a good push pace, because we are going to need to push absolutely hard this time around. So coming down into the braking zone for turn one, pick out about a marker after the 100-meter board. Now flick it in. A little bit of quick downshift, now hard on the brakes, trying to not lock that front left in this very heavily banked hairpin. You know, the high banking, very unique to the circuit of Zandvoort. There's actually in FIA Grade 1 circuits, there's maximum allowable banking for tracks that would be approved for Formula One, and Zandvoort is an exception to the rule. It's allowed to have higher banking than you would expect. We are out on our first lap, and now it's just all about trying to keep minimum speed up. Big tank slapper, trying to get on the power of these long drifting corners. It's so easy to get on the throttle just a little bit too early and get the back end stepping out. We are running a little bit too much fuel on board for this first run. I think we are running a normal set of tires, so we are running the softs here. We should have 3 sets of softs and a set of mediums in our tire allocation, so we are going to do just 2 runs since we are expecting to start from the back. That way we have a totally fresh set of soft tires to start the race on. But Giovinazzi sets the first time. We go across the line, go a 10.7, and immediately lose that fastest lap to Lewis Hamilton, who goes a 109.3. So we have about to start our final flying lap, getting out just a little bit early compared to everyone else. We have slipped down just to P12, so a better qualifying result than we normally have been seeing over the course of this season, which is important, but it's also not that important. It's important for the trend, but it's not important this week, just since we'll be starting towards the back a little bit slow through the first sector. They're not quite getting it all hooked up the way I'd like to. Still running just about flat, but with the way the track has kind of evolved, having to back out, that curb can really unsettle the car. But you can see through that first sector split, nearly 2/10 off of our previous best lap, and we should be really gaining quite a lot of time. Though you can see making up a lot of time through these couple of corners because we had that big tank slapper the first lap there, and a better run through the second corner. We're running almost entirely flat as we cross the second sector split. 0.008 of a second is the difference that we are ahead of our previous best lap, but through that long left-hand hairpin, a little bit better, picking up a couple hundredths here and there, and then trying just to get the power down a little bit earlier. But it seems like we're going to have a very similar lap. So we gained a lot in the second sector there, but we lost way too much time in that first sector.
And with qualifying complete, let's review our top 3 today. Bottas, Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. Well, that wraps up qualifying, but don't worry, we'll be back tomorrow as we head into the Grand Prix.
And of course, the other drivers setting their late lap times only slide us 1 more position down into P13, and that has put us behind in the mix between the 2 Renaults, behind both of the McLarens and splitting the AlphaTauris as well. But Daniel Kvyat, our rival who are being kind of compared against, is starting just ahead on the grid there, but of course we will be way at the back. So here we are slopping on all of those brand new engine components. We will definitely be trying to make good use of these since we're taking that penalty. It's just warning me every time that we will be starting towards the back. I think we are going to take what is essentially a 200 place grid penalty for doing an entire power unit change.
It was 35 years ago that the late great Niki Lauda took his 25th and final Grand Prix win here at Zandvoort. He came from 10th on the grid to beat his McLaren teammate Alain Prost by just 0.2 of a second. Well, Zandvoort is a very different circuit today, of course, but still one with an incredible legacy. And we're going to add to that. Welcome along to the 2020 Dutch Grand Prix. A lap of this short 2.6 mile Zandvoort circuit features 14 corners, 10 to the right and 4 to the left. The main straight is 678 meters long and heads into turn 1, the Tarzan corner. With DRS down the main straight into the braking zone, that could be the best overtaking opportunity on the track. A warm welcome to Anthony Davidson, who's beside me in the commentary box today. Let's talk about old time. As ever, the threat of unreliability is never far away, and indeed they'll be starting out of position today due to a power unit component change. So it's going to be a difficult task to move forward from there.
But on the bright side, at least those fresh components can help them maintain the power they need to come through the pack. I expect to see them take a more aggressive approach today to make up for the compromised start.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's race. Good job yesterday from Valtteri Bottas. The Finn starts from pole position, edging out Max Verstappen, who'll start from P2. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Hamilton, Vettel, Charles Leclerc and Stroll, Perez, Sainz, Ricciardo and Daniel Kvyat, Norris, Ocon, Pierre Gasly and Magnussen, Raikkonen, Albon. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. George Russell and Antonio Giovinazzi, Grosjean, Raghunathan, Latifi and Oldtimer. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track and get this Grand Prix underway.
So yeah, 219 place grid penalty, and unlike previous races where we've gone with the harder compounds to go long, we've gone with the soft tires at the start of this one to try and be as racy as possible. Getting off the line, we got the door closed off on us by Latifi. We switch it around to go along the outside. We are side by side with Antonio Giovinazzi, just hanging it around this long right-hander, already having made up 2 positions and catching up to our teammate Raghunathan. We're going to send it down the inside, try and make it overtake. Have a little bit of a look on Grosjean in the Haas ahead of us, but Alex Albon taking that grid penalty has shuffled him quite a ways back. And now, as they run 2 by 2 ahead of us, we're going to see if we can't pick out a place to try and move past them. You can see in the rearview mirrors Raghunathan trying to make a little bit of a move on us. Now, on the plus side, being stuck up kind of behind this group is going to be good for our early fuel saving, because once again, we're running very light on that fuel mixture just to try and keep the tires in a better window, not take some life out of them. And of course, you get a little better launch if you're running a lighter tire or a lighter car at the start. And we could have probably made up some positions if Albon and Grosjean shorted it out earlier, but now into the braking zone, into the end of the first DRS zone. Of course, no DRS yet. We send it past Albon and Grosjean. We're up into 17th now, and we've got the Williams of George Russell just ahead, so should be another car we can take on the straight. So we crank up the engine to full power, deploy the battery, and you can see just the launch we get. He's going to squeeze us a little bit towards the inside wall, but settles his car down, and we are easily past him, utilizing a bit lower downforce setup. Of course, we get the opportunity to play around with our setups. The AI sticks with mostly the default wing levels. So around the higher downforce tracks, we tend to have a little bit more trouble. And around the lower downforce tracks, we do get a bit of an advantage in the straight line speed department, but the AI is very good at getting the launch off of slow corners. So if your best overtaking opportunities are out of a slow corner, the AI tends to have a little bit of an advantage in that regard, but we can use that straight line speed to help us out. Now overall in performance, we should be a little bit quicker than the Alfa Romeos just ahead of us in the Haas. So we need to try and clear Kimi Raikkonen as quickly as we can, get onto the back of the other Haas of Kevin Magnussen, and then we'll be starting to fight with some cars more on our pace setting. We have an AlphaTauri and a Renault just ahead of this group. So settling in this second lap here, just kind of waiting for the best opportunity, really without the cars all fighting up and down the grid. Now that they've kind of sorted into that straight line running, the best overtaking opportunity is into turn 1. and it's all about getting this launch. You can see just how much we keep it tight to the bottom, picking a good amount of slipstream up. He's going to cover the inside, so we swap it back around to the outside, deploying the battery. Now, unfortunately, not a lot of heavy stops around this track here, so it's very hard to recharge that battery level if you've spent it all up, but we've managed to go around the outside and take that position from Raikkonen, and now having a look around the outside of the Haas of Magnussen. Sweeper on the outside, but he's just getting the throttle down, and now we are side by side through this twisty little bit of straights. It's totally flat up and down, but we are going to see who is going to take that position. We managed to get our elbows out and take that position away from Kevin Magnussen, as you really have to sort it out before that right-hander down the hill. And so we were able to stay brave, hold the inside line, and take away that position from him. And now we have the AlphaTauri just ahead of us, and that, I believe that is Pierre Gasly, who is the trailing of the two AlphaTauris thus far. So we should have an opportunity to have the DRS become enabled. However, he's going to have DRS off of Esteban Ocon in front in the Renault. But so far, up to P14, and really utilizing that fresh engine and being very racy on these tires to try and cut our way through the field and not lose too much ground early on. You see as we come out of the corner, already our battery charge down to 25%. DRS is enabled, and you can see just how much help Gasly is getting, although not making a move on Ocon. And really, we need him to try and make some attacks to upset Ocon. If they just stay settled in, and Ocon on those medium tires will eventually start to get that tire advantage, and Gasly will struggle. So we're going to try that around the outside move, set up a run side by side. But yeah, getting a little better, not having to slow up on the exit so much as they did in the first laps. And that is Pierre Gasly just ahead of us. So we are going to try and settle down, save some fuel, but you see how much the understeer is on that very quick right-hander when you're close up behind another car. That aero washout can be a big factor. So we need to try and save the tires as much as we can, but we can't give up too much pace because we still have Magnussen and Raikkonen hanging on just behind us, not really losing any ground thus far as we come across the second DRS zone. A short little blast, not a great overtaking opportunity in the main race, but allows you to kind of close up for this long left-hander to set up and just get yourself closer for that run down the main straight, which we're going to try and make work this time. However, that extra bit of overtake mode that the AI has saved up a little bit better than us in a comparable straight line speeds, but you can see closing on Gasly. We get right up around the gearbox of him, and we're going to switch to the outside as he's going down the inside of Ocon. We're going to go wide around the outside, 3 wide into turn 1, and as they battle it out behind us, we're going to go ahead and take 2 positions in one corner and get ourselves further up the field. I believe that makes us P11 now, so knocking on the door of points, but a huge lockup into the hairpin there. And for a race strategy that's going to require us to kind of conserve the tires a bit, that is not what we want to be doing on that tire. P12 now, as we have Kvyat now ahead of us and Lando Norris. So we've got 1.7 seconds to close up to Danny Kvyat in front of us. Of course, we got to try and clear that 1 second gap to the cars behind, but you can see through the first sector up 0.3 of a second. So we, with the clear air, doing much better. And jumping ahead now, lap 7 of the race, we have closed up into the DRS range of Daniel Kvyat. He is yet to close into the range of Lando Norris, so he will have no DRS help just ahead of him. But we have been, as you can see, using a lot of battery. But oh, he gets a very bad exit out of the hairpin. We have to check up to keep from going into the back of him. And now he is big on the defense, and that's going to rob us of some momentum through those final corners. We're not able to carry as much speed as we normally can. So now with that electrical deployment, using that extra overtake, burning that last little bit of battery, the DRS open, he's able to hold on as we derate at the end of the straight because our battery is so low. We lose a bit of that performance, but we are able to be a bit braver on the brakes and make the move now up into 11th place ahead of our rival in the AlphaTauri. And now looking ahead at Lando Norris on the mediums. However, 8 laps into this 36-lap race, we are going to start to see those soft tires start to take a bit of punishment, and it will be a switchover where the mediums get stronger. We're jumping ahead to lap 11 now, and the first of the soft tire runners coming in, Vettel, Verstappen, we're going by, Hamilton going past. We're going beyond him as well, all going for that hard compounded tire. So looking to make that one-stop strategy to go to the end of the race. Now, it could have been an option for us to go soft to medium. However, just as you saw, that big lockup really taking that away. We are going to try and extend this soft tire stint as much as we can because the pace is still pretty decent on it, and we want to try and conserve, have a little bit of extra life in those hard tires towards the end because we will put them under quite a bit of strain, just the high G loading, but you can see already losing quite a bit of time off of our best lap overall, 13.7 at this stage of the race, and we haven't really been able to catch all the way up to Lando Norris, but you can see Hamilton and Verstappen on those fresh tires. Now, we are 2 steps softer, but on much more aged tires at this point, so they should have plenty of performance in those hard tires to really make up the time in the corners, as we're starting to lose a little bit of ground to the medium tire ahead of us. So we are hitting that switchover point, obviously, with the front runners getting off the soft tires, knowing that they're just about done. So we are continuing to press on, though, staying out another lap. And that is actually going to put Hamilton at a bit of a disadvantage to Verstappen into turn 1. He was not able to get that DRS, and we come out, and you see another Ferrari on the hard tires coming in, and the other Mercedes, Valtteri Bottas, actually manages to overcut Lewis Hamilton, but big lock up into the hairpin. That sent us very deep, and that's going to give Charles Leclerc a pretty good run down the straight, but we cover off the nose and allow him not to get that run on us. It looks like Lewis Hamilton was able to maintain his position just ahead of Max Verstappen. And now we have to settle in and just keep trying to manage the pace. We aren't going to close up to Valtteri Bottas, who's on those fresher tires, on those hards, but we need to try and keep Charles Leclerc at bay just behind us. It's quite a tall ask, as you can see, running very wide through that corner. So hard to get it down to the apex, but we are able to get the throttle down, and even with the DRS, he's not able to put himself in an attacking position down that very short straight. However, if we aren't able to get inside that 1 second mark of Valtteri in front of us, which it looks like we are in trouble a bit, we may be just into a bit of trouble when the cars behind all utilize the DRS. So are we going to make the dive to the pit lane now? Yes, we're pulling in, knowing that it's pretty much doomed for us to try and maintain that track position, locking the tires on the way in, getting it slowed down to the line. We have a Racing Point coming in just ahead of us. He's getting off those soft tires. Looks like he's got a set of the hard. So just about everybody going with that one-stop strategy. However, cars out on the mediums able to extend the stint, maybe hoping for a safety car at some point. But you can see the Renaults that have already come in, and we're going to slot in. We've actually managed to overcut, or rather not overcut Esteban Ocon. He's gotten in front of us with the undercut, rather. So though we ran those soft tires longer, we cost ourselves time. So maybe not the best strategy call. However, we will have quite a few lap fresher tires as we have come back out in P12 as the pit stop shuffles has gone around. So we've lost a couple of positions thus far in this one, but we managed to save a good amount of fuel. We're on lap 14 of 36, but we have a huge train, and DRS trains are not the friend of cars that need to be making some overtakes happen. So we need to try and hope for some mistakes maybe on the cars in front of us, and also just trying to get ourselves into an attacking position. Maybe if they're all going one after the other into the braking zone of turn 1, we might be able to catch a run, send one up the inside, and try and make a move that way. But not a lot of battery power on board right now, still under 50%, so we got to try and conserve where we can. Really have to pick our moments to attack on the cars ahead, because we're all in the same strategy now. Nobody should be getting out of the way on pit strategy at this point of the race. Except for, it looks like Carlos Sainz had a quick glimpse, saw the red compound, those red stripes on him, so he is certainly going to have to make another pit stop. And as they bunch up, we're going to try and make a move around the outside of Daniel Ricciardo. A little bit of side-by-side contact, and now, just like we had with the Haas earlier, a big-time drag race down in. And this time, however, we are going to yield that position. We're going to back out. Not a wise decision to contest at that point, and unfortunately, though, you can see we're 0.8 off of our previous best lap time, so we are losing quite a lot of time in this group. However, it is giving us a very good opportunity to fuel save and get us back onto that target for our fuel margins. We have about a half a lap more to save, so we are ahead of target at this point. But we definitely need to try and get clear of this group. You can see it's a Renault leading the group, 2 racing points on McLaren. But, big tank slapper from Perez. We have to get hard on the brakes as Ricciardo slows down. And unfortunately, in our over-eagerness to try and capitalize on the mistake, you see the back end stepping out. We spin up those rear tires, and we have lost that traction. So Perez made the mistake. We had to slam on the anchors to keep from picking up big damage on Ricciardo. Checking the wing right now just to make sure. But unfortunately, we were really unable to take advantage of that mistake. And Ricciardo made his way through, but Perez able to stay ahead of us. And that has opened up a little bit of a gap between Ricciardo and the McLaren ahead. So now he is going to be in trouble from Sergio Perez. So jumping ahead now, lap 20. Not a lot has been going on, just kind of staying in line, unable to make any moves. But you see yellow flags on the main straight now. A slow-moving gray dot of a Haas. I believe we should see who that is in just a moment when it comes up and tells you who's retiring. We'll see if he's able to get the car pulled off into a safe area, though, and able to avoid a safety car. But we're keeping an eye on that as it stands right now. Still on the back of Sergio Perez, kind of keeping one eye in each position. It is Kevin Magnussen who is out, although we get on that curbing. Not ideal there. You can see, though, we've saved a ton of fuel just settling into this line, though. But we are running so much slower than the pace that we could realistically be running here around the track now. But just like Perez made the mistake, Ricciardo gets the back end stepped out. And this time we're in a position to take advantage of it. Perez swipes us to the outside of the track. A little bit of wheel banging into the penultimate corner. We're going to try and hold ground around him. He's going to have to yield as we pinch him along the inside of the track there. So we've taken that position now from Sergio Perez, and he's not going to be able to lunge back at us with the yellow flags into turn one. And there you can see Magnussen parked up on the outside. We've managed to pick up a position now and get into 10th place as Carlos Sainz looks to have still out on those soft tires. So he should get out of our way and allow us to move up into 9th, although we are hoping now that Ricciardo or Stroll are going to make a mistake like they did earlier to allow us a run to try and attack, because as long as we're stuck in this DRS train, we really aren't going to be making a lot of headway. But Lando Norris has really streaked away. It looks like Esteban Ocon on an alternate strategy has made a pit stop and dropped behind our group as well. So he is a little bit out of action now. So it is just one from each team, aside from Sergio Perez, who is going to have the opportunity to close up to the back of me once again, because I'm not able to run my true pace with these cars just ahead. Little chips out of the front wing end plate, so we've taken a little bit of wheel banging damage, but nothing that is going to cost us too much performance at this stage. Maybe a point or two, 1% or 2 there. Now the McLaren diving into the pit lane, so he's going to clear this group now. And we need Daniel Ricciardo to make an attack on Lance Stroll ahead. As you can see just how much more confidence we have under braking, able to really close up in those slower sections, but it gets very much to a one-line kind of strategy. If he covers the inside of this hairpin, we really can't carry the momentum to fight him back around the outside. That heavy camber, getting on the power there, it's very tough to keep the car settled, so the back end has an opportunity to get a little bit wily on you if you're not careful getting on the throttle coming out of that one. So we are just kind of settling in right now. Now, granted, we did start at the back of the field, so taking home any points, which is where we are running right now in 10th place, is not a bad day at the office. We were just trying to salvage a point or two coming from the back of the field. So even if we are kind of held up and not able to make our way through, we're in a good spot. You can see some blue flags waving, and that is the Williams of Nicholas Latifi, who had a bit of an off-track adventure earlier. Doesn't seem to have taken any damage from it, but you can see now the blue flags having to move out of the way, and might be a situation where even if he's trying to get out of the way, he holds up Ricciardo enough to kill his momentum, but it doesn't look like it's killed enough. Ricciardo's maintained that DRS down the front straight, so once again, with our battery running very low, we're going to have to just try and conserve and mount another attack. So luckily the back marker did not harm us too much, but it didn't help us all that much either where he came out. So you can see, though, with the fuel margin, we are running pretty much flat to target, so we can be a little bit more aggressive with the fuel use, burn a little bit off, and then save a little bit more towards the tail end. We are ahead of schedule in our fuel saving areas, so we could have a little bit more to deploy and use up if we need. But let's jump ahead now. Lap 29 of 36, still running in the low 14s, not at maximum pace. And Perez, you can see, just hanging right up at the back of us. We're kind of stuck at whatever Lance Stroll's pace is right now. And Ricciardo, though, knows getting a little leery on the braking. We have to kind of go late to avoid getting into the back of him. And that is going to cost us a little bit of ground down this straight, but perhaps making some mistakes. And we've got yellow flags now in the sector that we are in, or just ahead. It looks like the orange dot has pulled off. Lando Norris is out of the session, and a safety car has been called. So we closed up into P8 now with Lando Norris going out, but now it's going to bunch the field right back up.
reduce your pace.
Now with only 7 laps left to go in this one, lap 29 of 36, we didn't really have the opportunity to come in and make another pit stop. But if you look ahead, you can see Javier Ragunith in there, who is a lap down. So he's going to get in the blue flags, and I believe George Russell is a little ahead. Here we are on the straight, just trying to get a good run when it goes green, and we have to check up, lose that little bit of momentum because we can't pass Ricciardo before the start-finish line, and that's cost us a little bit of ground to Perez. But down the inside we go on Ricciardo, an easy position to steal away from him. You can see Williams pulled to the inside, George Russell, and he's pinched us along the inside, makes contact with us, and that's actually sent us very wide, and we make contact with the barrier, and now with Russell, who not getting out of the way with those blue flags, being a lap down, he came right down to the apex and really unsettled the car, made a little bit of side-by-side contact with us, and now, unfortunately, Giovinazzi getting out of the way. We have some serious front wing damage and an opportunity to maybe make a lunge on Stroll in the Racing Point is pretty much gone away from us. So with 4 laps left to go in this one, we have a very angry group of Ricciardo, Perez, and it looks like both of the Alpha Tauris right behind us. So big understeers. We're trying to kind of find the limits of the car once again with that wing damage. It looks like just an end plate missing, so something we can carry on with. We're not going to have to make a pit stop, but we are going to be losing quite a bit of time compared to our ideal pace. And it's going to be all about defending now. Just trying to hang on to as many points as we can this time. Another late bit of wing damage. This time, though, not one that we're going to have to take an extra pit stop on, luckily. But it could cost us some serious points once again, like it cost us last week out in China. So luckily, 3 laps of the 6 laps left, or 5 laps left to go in this one. They will not have DRS available to them. But it's going to be all about trying to save up the battery where we can to deploy it down that main straight to hold this position, to try and maximize the points that we bring home. And as I was saying earlier, even if we finish 10th, scored a point starting from the back, it's still a good day at the office, but we have the opportunity to bring home a 7th place finish and a solid 6 points where we're sitting right now. We will see if we can just hang on. It's real important in this left-hander to not leave the door open. Really kind of learn that lesson here as Ricciardo gets down the inside, makes contact with our side pod as he runs out wide, getting on the power. But we really have to be very careful with that lack of front wing, lack of front downforce. The car really wants to understeer through those medium speed corners, and that left-hander is very important to not let them get a lunge up on the inside. So definitely learned something that time around the track that I really have to make sure, even if it's slower on entry, to get all the way down to the apex of that left-hander to make sure that coming out of there and that short DRS run is not going to be an opportunity where they can pull alongside, use the DRS to get a bit of an advantage on me, and then make an overtake into that heavy braking zone. So we should have the DRS coming available to the cars behind this next lap up, and only a couple more laps left to go in this one, and Ricciardo is still all over the back of us. And of course, if it turns out that that DRS is strong enough that he's going to be able to make a move, there's a huge train of cars following us. So if we are unable to keep ourselves ahead of Ricciardo, it will certainly put us out of position on the track, not allow us to be in a good defending spot, and could really result in us losing quite a few positions right away. So once again, you see just trying to get the nose down to that apex curbing. That time we covered it off a little bit better, didn't leave the door open, but you can see that rear wing opening up on the cars behind and allowing them. They've got the DRS. We're on lap 34 of 36, about to start the penultimate lap of the race, and it's just all about using what battery, what fuel I have left, and of course, luckily able to save even more fuel under that safety car condition. So we got a little bit more to play with, but Daniel Ricciardo only 3/10 off the back of us. Luckily, our downforce setup allows us to get a little bit of an early run, but you can see just how much he's able to close up down that straight. We just need to defend that front straight one more time. So saving fuel, trying to save the ERS where we can, and making sure he doesn't make an attack at us earlier on. Just need enough to expend and save and hold the position. 7th place is it would be a very good haul of points for us here. And you can see already ahead, Lance Stroll 5.5 seconds out ahead. And I think we had the pace to hang with him if we didn't have the wing damage, but we are losing so much time. You can see Daniel Ricciardo in these very downforce sensitive corners all over our gearbox. You can see early on the brakes trying to get the nose down to that apex curbing, really just kind of taking away any door that he has to make an overtake, as he's only a quarter of a second off the back of us. And of course, that little bit less front wing downforce also affects our ability to be strong on the brakes. We certainly outpaced them on the braking earlier in the race, but not having that extra force pushing the front tires into the ground means it's easier to lock them up if you're not careful. And you can see just how little battery we have left. Trying to move the inside just to break the slipstream, but we have enough ground ahead of Daniel Ricciardo. It looks like we've been able to defend him into that first corner for the one final time. Now, there's no easy overtaking positions left around the track, but we just need to make sure that with that lacking front wing downforce, just to not make a mistake the rest of the way. If we don't make any mistakes, don't get the car off the line that we need it to be on, we should be able to walk it in very gently into this 7th place finish. So a few more corners just to avoid the pressure, not running out wide. So easy to run out wide in that right-hander. It's so quick when you've got that full downforce. You really just throw it in and the car kind of sticks at high speed. But with that lower speeds, that lower downforce, we really have to struggle with it. And now Ricciardo all over the back of us. Is he going to try and make a move into the braking zone? We stay on the normal racing line. And he is unable to make a move down that last DRS zone. You can see the train that we've been holding up for these last stints here. But Daniel Ricciardo trying to make it one more kind of lunge. Can he get the exit? We've managed to save just enough battery, so fuel mix to maximum. Battery dumping everything that is left. And you can see actually the fuel, we're out, and it switches to low fuel mode right before we cross the start-finish line. So we managed the fuel mode pretty much on the money and come home 7th.
The Mercedes team pulled out a fantastic performance today. They should be proud. Anthony Davidson, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
I think a large part of the result comes down to temperament. They were able to keep their heads when everyone around them was losing theirs, and that's allowed them to get the best out of the car, to maximise the strategy, and to stay out of trouble.
And I can see the drivers starting to approach the podium for the victory celebrations. A real team victory today. Everybody played their part. Congratulations then to Mercedes, your race winners today.
So Valtteri Bottas continuing to keep it interesting in the championship fight, coming ahead of his teammate Lewis Hamilton. Of course, Charles Leclerc inserting himself in between the Mercedes, making a bit of a claim to a very interesting title fight.
This round of the World Championship, here's how things look in the Drivers' Table. Valtteri Bottas passes his rival to take over the lead of the Drivers' Championship. Some amazing talents out on the track today, but Anthony, who would you pick as your driver of the day?
I have to give it to Old Timer. That was a commanding performance today. Very impressive indeed.
It's time to check out the constructors' standings. Mercedes continue to extend their lead. Meanwhile, Ferrari have improved their position. A strong weekend from them as they fight their way towards the top. It's been an absolutely wild weekend of Formula One action. I can't wait to see what's next.
The poor starting position definitely hurt Red Bull as a team in this one, with Alex Albon finishing down in 14th. Lance Stroll coming best of the rest, and unfortunately Mahavir Raghunathan essentially coming last on the road. George Russell picking up a 5-second penalty for his contact with us there. So definitely he was not getting out of the way when he should have. But Mercedes still holding that top slot, but Valtteri Bottas taking over the championship lead. So getting interesting there with Verstappen falling down, not having a great result there, but still splitting the two Mercedes teammates. So definitely an interesting fight developing up at the top. He reached the rep level. Wow, I can totally speak. To add another in-game sponsor to the car, which of course you guys don't see because we are running a livery that has the in-game sponsors disabled, but that's fine. We'll still take their money. We can headcanon it that it's some of the other sponsors on that are actually paying us the money. But so we should get a few more funds each week in order to help continue to develop the resource packs and the development studios essentially. So we are going to go ahead and spend some of our development points, a little bit more ERS recovery, so some more into the powertrain, save some extra battery, and it looks like we're going to go ahead and do some chassis development. Chassis is really where we're lagging behind the other teams. It's by far our worst performing department, just because we haven't put a lot of time into it. But we are going to continue to develop that as much as we can and get that caught back up. And now we're just checking out the facilities to see where we want to spend some cash. We can, I think, upgrade a few are in the range. We can do quality controller build time in chassis with the 1.5 mil, or we can put it into the driver sim, which is something we're trying to do, get Mahavir as a bit more of a contributor to the team. So making some choices here, and we are going to go ahead and spend it on the fitness center. And of course, in the activities, just only a couple days to use until the next Grand Prix. So we are going to spend it on second driver development, but we do have some upgrades coming to the car before the race. We head out to Barcelona, and a track that's pretty important to qualify decently on. It is a bit of a rough track on the tires, so we can gain some positions if we opt for are able to make a one-stop strategy work around there. So realistically, if we can qualify around where we were expecting to qualify in Zandvoort before the penalties, that 11th, 12th, 13th range, we can put ourselves in position for a very good race, and some fortunate safety car might even put us in with a shout for some of the top spots. We definitely are starting to develop the race pace in the car. It's just a matter of bringing it all together on a weekend, but tough to overtake around Barcelona. So if we do manage to make some early moves, we can definitely have the opportunity to hold off other cars. It is a track, though, where we set up a higher downforce setup than what the AI runs, so makes the overtaking down that front straight just even a little bit harder. But I look forward to that one coming up next, and should be a good run of tracks there. Of course, we go to Monaco after that, so another really qualifying heavy track. But thank you all for watching again. Take it easy.